Welcome to BizTalks with AT&T Business. I'm Kevin L. Jackson, host of Digital Transformers. Network modernization is a key element when it comes to hardening an organization's security posture. Ignoring this fact will often lead to diminishing returns on your cybersecurity investment. This is why we're going to discuss the network security landscape and key findings in the new AT&T Cybersecurity Insights Report with Theresa Lanowitz, Head of Cybersecurity Evangelism, AT&T Business. Welcome, Theresa.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's really wonderful to talk to you.
I always learn so much when I talk to you, and you just bring it to these biz talks.
Well, thank you. I think the feeling's mutual. I learn a lot when I talk with you as well. So thank you.
Thank you. So in the 2023 AT&T Cybersecurity Insights Report, what were the key findings?
Yeah, so let me just set a little bit of context for the AT&T Cybersecurity Insights Report. It is our annual thought leadership piece of research. It is vendor neutral, forward-looking, actionable, based on a global survey of 1,418 participants from North America, Latin America, EMEA, which includes UK, Ireland, France, and Germany, as well as APAC, which includes Australia, India, Singapore, and South Korea. And we have this quantitative survey through our global field survey, as well as qualitative surveys that we do with subject matter experts to really help inform what's going on inside of the research that we're writing. So you asked about the three key findings from the report. Top three findings. One, there's really balanced investing going on when it comes to security and movement to the edge, because we're looking at this whole idea of edge ecosystem. So there's this idea of balanced investing with security, network, applications, as well as planning. The second big takeaway is that we're starting to see the erosion of these decades-old silos that have been erected inside of IT organizations over the past 40, 50 plus years. We see cross-functional communication and collaboration being a key in what people are doing as they move to the edge. But we also see the addition of this third-party trusted advisor, whether it be through consulting or a global systems integrator or managed security services. In fact, 71% of our survey participants told us that they're using some sort of trusted third-party advisor once they have their edge use case in production. And the third thing that we're seeing is this idea of cyber resilience, this idea of dynamic cyber resilience, building for the future, meaning that the security culture is changing. The way people think about security is changing, and the way people are going to secure their new type of edge assets is completely changing. We're thinking about the controls, we're thinking about the endpoints that we're using, so we're seeing this big change. So those are the top three key findings: balanced investment, erosion of silos using an ecosystem, and dynamic cyber security and dynamic cyber resilience being built in.
Wow. This report seems like it was very comprehensive. And its subtitle is Edge Ecosystem. That's pretty interesting, but how do you define the term? It's something that's being thrown around quite a bit.
Yeah, so the edge ecosystem, if you think about where we are, we're really perched on this edge, no pun intended. We're perched on this precipice of a new era of computing. It's underpinned by new types of networks, 5G networks with lower latency and higher bandwidth. It's new types of applications, these applications that are ephemeral, non-GUI based. It's underpinned by the need for dynamic experience, dynamic computing experience that really is data driven. And so this whole idea of the edge ecosystem says that we start to see these silos erode. We saw this in our 2022 research, and we see it again in our 2023 research, that this idea of silos that have been inside of the IT organization for decades, they're now saying, you know what, we need to communicate and collaborate with one another. But what we also need to do is we need to work with this trusted advisor. We need to make sure that we're bringing in somebody who has known how to do this, someone who's on the leading edge, someone who has seen this before. Because what we're seeing is security, especially as we move to the edge, is not really a do-it-yourself option. You want to work with that trusted third-party advisor.
Okay, so as you go to the edge, clearly you are leaving your own IT environment. And many people are worried about that because they feel like they're in control of that environment. And as people go to the cloud, they also have the same sort of, worries. So is security like changing in this edge ecosystem?
Yeah, you bring up so many really good points, and security is definitely changing. And we saw this with the advent of the cloud. Probably 10, 12 years ago, we saw organizations move from everything being on premise to saying, well, we're going to put things in the cloud. And if we think about the edge, people tend to define the edge differently depending upon the technology stack that they are either using or selling. So what we say is there are really three common characteristics of edge computing. First, it's software defined. And as you said, you're leaving your premise. So it's software defined. It is also about the applications, the workloads, the hosting, being closer to where that data is being generated and consumed. And it's also this distributed model of management, intelligence, and networks. So if we keep those three key characteristics in mind when we talk about edge computing in these edge use cases, that gives us an idea of what we're doing. But you mentioned security changing, and the security culture is changing significantly. We've gone over the past 3 years from security being a very technical type of issue to being a business enabler. It is really now all about delivering these good business outcomes with security at the core. And security, as you said, it's changing. The culture around security is changing. The need for the business to understand security is changing as well. And as we move to the edge, we start to see, like I said, everything change, the network, the applications, the endpoints, and so on.
Wow, you sound like something I always say is that change is accelerating as we sit in our environment. As you do your research, is there anything that's surprising you? I mean, can you identify any, as they say, aha moments? What really got you as you were doing this research?
I love that question. And you always ask that question. And it's just so refreshing because, anytime you do any type of primary research like this, you do have those, as you said, those aha moments. So there are three, I think, that came out of this bit of data. And the first is that idea of balanced investing. So across planning, network, security, and applications, there's this idea of balanced investing. We don't see investment in one of those areas really outpacing the other. There's this really nice balanced investment. You can read more about that in the report. The second big aha moment is that globally, organizations are saying, yes, we know there's a likelihood of a cyber event, and we also know that there's an impact to the business with that. And I'm optimistic about that because I think probably 5 years ago, we wouldn't have heard organizations say, yeah, if there's a cyber event, there's an impact to the business. So tying it to the business is a positive. But the aha moment that came out of that was that globally across the board, compared to 2022, in 2023, organizations are seeing less of a perceived risk of a cyber event and less of a perceived impact to the business. So this really speaks to the idea that these silos are eroding. There's cross-functional communications inside the organization, and they're bringing in those external third parties to help, those trusted advisors. And then the third big aha moment, and this was really a surprise when the data came back, we always ask about what is your most perceived risk? What risk do you think is the most relevant that will occur? So the most perceived risk out there, the most perceived dangerous risk, DDoS. People were telling us that DDoS attacks are now their number one concern for perceived risks on the edge. And if you think about it, this idea of a DDoS attack tends to make sense because we're now living in a world of things. We have those machine-to-machine communications. We have those non-GUI, those headless types of applications communicating. And so this idea of a DDoS attack, taking down any of those devices, taking down any of those Internet of Things devices, really weighs heavily on the minds of organizations across the board. And in the report, we also have this broken down by the different vertical industry as well. So I'd encourage everybody to read the report to see how the perceived threats break down across industries as well. But DDoS came out as the #1 perceived threat.
I tell you, that's really surprising to me, because I think the earlier reports really point to ransomware as a big issue that enterprises had to worry about. But DDoS, wow, that is a different animal. So if I'm a executive and I have to go to the edge because my business is really driving me there, what are the first steps I need to take? Do I still need to worry about ransomware? Do I have to go all in to protect me against DDoS?
You definitely do have to worry about ransomware. And that was, as you said, it seems to be that ransomware in 2022 was the #1 perceived threat. And certainly our research bore that out, that in 2022, people were saying ransomware is the #1 concern. And if we look at them ranked from 1 to 8, last year in 2022, DDoS was last. This year, and ransomware was first. In 2023, that completely flipped. So ransomware moved to the #8 position, DDoS moved to the #1 position. But the advice here is that you cannot take your eye off the ball with respect to ransomware. The adversaries are still out there. They're still working on ransomware activities, injecting malware, and so on. But DDoS becomes vitally important because of the number of Internet of Things devices that we're now connecting to our networks, and that we're now running edge use cases through. And then you ask about an executive, really, what would they want to do as they move to the edge? You want to figure out what you want your business outcomes to be. Understand that you're going to have those organizational changes, because the edge is different. We know the culture around security is different. We know the culture around the types of endpoints is changing. Right now, the top endpoints that people are seeing, it's those traditional types of endpoints: laptops, desktops, phones, tablets, and so on. As we move out 3 to 5 years, organizations are telling us they're looking at robotics. So autonomous types of robotics, autonomous vehicles, autonomous planes, drones, and so on. So those purpose-built and intentional devices, that's where the endpoints are moving to. So as an executive, figure out what you want your business outcome to be. Plan for organizational change and make sure that you are investing appropriately along the way.
Earlier, you talked about balanced investment. So that seems to be a key aspect of an executive's thought process. The other thing I've noticed is, I wish I should have told you at the beginning, give me a quarter every time you said culture, because culture came out loud and clear to me. But if you could give every business leader a single takeaway, I know that's going to be difficult. From the report, what would it be? Can you boil it down to the most important takeaway?
So how about if I give you kind of 3 snippets? Edge use cases.
You're cheating. Okay.
So edge use cases are evolutionary, not revolutionary. Plan for organizational change, plan for investment, and plan to make sure that you are looking to the future for that dynamic cyber resiliency.
All right. The other thing you said is that you can't go at it alone.
Right.
So and it's trusted advisor, how could AT&T actually provide that cybersecurity expertise to help an organization stay secure?
Yeah, so if you think about what AT&T provides from an AT&T cybersecurity point of view, we offer 2 ways for clients to engage with us. The first is through our consulting services, our cybersecurity consulting services. The second is through our managed security services. So from our consulting point of view, we have really world-class consultants with all of the experience, certifications that you would need, and they've seen a lot of this before. They see this on a day-to-day basis because of the variety and the number of clients that they're actually working with. So as I mentioned, security moving to the edge is not a do-it-yourself type of activity. And the second is through our managed security services. Our managed security services, we have 8 global SOCs that operate 24/7, 365. And again, our SOC analysts are certified with the latest certifications, and they've seen all of this before. And the benefit and the value that this brings, our consulting services and our managed security services, is it really does help to drive that operational efficiency into your cybersecurity budget. And that's really key moving forward, is making sure you have that balanced investment, making sure you're thinking about it, but bringing that trusted advisor in to drive that operational efficiency in your cybersecurity budget.
Well, data is the key to every business, and remote data is critical, and things like wide area network connectivity, but stability and reliability of that network. This is key to any business. So how should network reliability help stabilize the business, and so it can be sure to get that data when and where it's needed?
Yeah, and again, it's working with that trusted, reliable third party. So from a network perspective, AT&T, we've been providing networks, we've been securing networks since that very first phone call over 145 years ago. So AT&T, that idea of securing the network is really in our DNA. And then if you look from a cybersecurity perspective and moving to the edge, how everything is changing, the networks, 5G network. The 5G network is more reliable than any previous generation of network with built-in security. It also has lower latency, higher bandwidth, and AT&T provides that 5G network. So we see the applications changing, we see the network, we see the data. So from a network reliability perspective, using an AT&T network, we have security in our DNA, securing the network in our DNA. But you as the client of that network, you also have to make sure that you are protecting what you're adding to that network, the endpoints, the data, and the applications. So just make sure that you are working with that trusted third-party advisor to really help you understand how you need to protect what you are connecting to that network.
Data is just the beginning. And you have to get data from multiple points of the spectrum, put it together, analyze that data so that you can really glean the nuggets, get the information, the business information that you need in order to make decisions and take action. So taking it to the next level, so to speak, how is providing security across a secure AT&T network vital when it comes to protecting business information?
Yeah, so as I said, that security and protecting that information and that data, that's built into the AT&T DNA. Okay. That's who we are. We see on average about 594 petabytes of data traffic daily come across our network. So when it comes to understanding what that data looks like, understanding how to secure that data, AT&T has that covered. AT&T has that built into our DNA.
Thank you, Theresa, for providing your knowledge. And thank you, the audience, for watching BizTalks.
Thanks for watching. For more videos from AT&T Business, click subscribe.